convention coverage kicks off officially here at 9 p.m. Eastern, but of course,
Hi, Gokcen. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, perfect. I will quickly start with an introduction, okay? And then I will hand over to you.
Thank you.
So hello, everyone who's already on the call. I'm sure there is some more people joining within the next minutes. Can you all see my screen? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So yeah, welcome everyone to this XR Bootcamp Career Navigator. And yeah, I mean, as we all know today, the world really has changed through Corona. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter anymore how we really look like. And it's because we are all really used to working remotely, meeting remotely, socializing remotely, so that a lot of companies have actually decided that they will allow all their employees to actually work from home, at least until next year. And a lot of them also decided that their employees will actually never have to work from the office anymore. So there's not only, of course, big companies, but also lots of smaller companies who have decided that. And how is that actually possible? And virtual reality technologies, augmented reality technologies, extended reality technologies, of course, all of these help to make that possible. And yeah, there is so much with just being, yeah, I mean, there is only like on-site operations right now, which are handled by, 1 second. Yeah. Everything good, which is right now handled by rather low-skilled workers. But however, as a manager who's maybe still sitting at home still needs to, yeah, manage the workers on site. And that, of course, happens a lot through remote support applications. Of course, it also happens a lot through virtual reality trainings. And as XR Bootcamp, as we are seeing this high demand in these kind of, yeah, in this kind of app development, we have actually, and there's actually for all these apps and all these virtual reality trainings and augmented reality support applications, there's a huge, yeah, there's huge profitability rates that you can already see. That, for example, when you have remote support, remote service support, that it's much easier to explain things when you have these kind of augmented reality remote support applications that can help you. And of course, profitability increases when you don't take so much time anymore to explain your service or your product to the end customer. And yeah, and that's why basically with XR Bootcamp, we have actually established 3 project-based master classes, which are starting soon. One is focused on hand tracking and interaction design in October. One is exactly, yeah, an AR remote support application app course masterclass. And the third one is actually to create a VR training simulation. And these are all 4 weeks courses where you really learn to create this application in 4 weeks by yourself. And it's mostly courses where, yeah, if you're a developer, you really skill your VR and VR and Unity skills especially. But you can also join these classes when you don't have any coding prerequisites. So, and yeah, there's so many studies right now done that really show the potential of extended realities. And for example, this one done by PwC is saying that there's basically in the next 9 years, there's $1.5 trillion US added to the global economy, which is huge. And it's just showing the potential. And again, yeah, it's not called e-commerce anymore. It's really going to become AR commerce in the future, because all goods are basically going to be sold and explained and assisted with through augmented reality support. Yeah, that's also showing, and that's also why XR Bootcamp is so much supporting the education side of things, is that there's such a huge growth of positions in the augmented reality and virtual reality field. There's a study by Hired done from 2018 to 2019, which is showing that, yeah, I mean, the demand is just growing like crazy for these kind of positions. And of course, all big companies right now are investing, are buying smaller companies into these technologies. And there's really, yeah, I mean, from Facebook to Microsoft to Google to Apple, everyone is trying to get, yeah, the best companies, the best IPs, the best technologies on their side to gain huge market shares. And yeah, in our master classes, we actually have lots of different yeah, companies participating, because everyone today needs to upskill in VR and AR. So if you're considering to take some of our master classes, we are happy to look at your profile again if you actually fulfill the requirements. And yeah, and what we have for the augmented reality support application right now is normally the course is $2,000, but we actually have 3 slots left for $599 US. And you can apply for that via the link below. It's xrbootcamp.com/masterclass-application. And yeah, I didn't want to talk so much about XR Bootcamp, and I will give the word now to Gokcen to continue. I think that's what you're all here for. And
Thank you. I'm going to start sharing my screen then.
yeah, can you do that? Are you able to do that?
Can you all see my screen right now? Yeah?
Yeah, perfect.
Great. And when I swipe to my notes, you don't see that, right? You just see.
No, I don't see that. Everything is good.
Okay, awesome, because that was my plan. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Gokcen Keskin, a product designer. Well, I call myself a product designer, but in every role in company join, I have a different title. So right now, I'm an interaction designer at Gravity Sketch. And before this role, I was working as an XR experience designer at VIII. Today, I'm going to talk about my career journey and how it led up to working in XR field. Well, preparing for this was actually super fun for me. Well, probably because it's just like most of us, I really like talking about myself, but also it helped me to reflect on my career and some of the decisions I made. And it made me also see what are my priorities, or maybe I knew that, but now I had a chance to articulate it. I really hope that it could also maybe help you and inspire you in some way, or maybe you can find it relatable in some ways. I'm going to start with my education background. So I studied industrial design and graduated in 2012. During my studies, I was always interested in computers, and I was fascinated by how computers and internet have been changing the way we do things as humans. But I, for some reason, have never considered having a career. At some point, I was really interested in designing boats, but closer to graduating from university, I've just noticed that it's become really clear that I didn't want a career in industrial design. And I just started looking into tech jobs, and mobile was booming. So I've become a mobile application designer. My first job was in Istanbul. I worked at that job for 2.5 years. And at the same time, I was thinking of doing a master's study, and I was preparing for that, but I just didn't know what I wanted to study, because I kind of knew that designing services and designing digital tools was what I wanted to do, but I just didn't know if I wanted to study that, because I had a bunch of other interests. So for example, this is not too far from maybe what I was doing, but I was really fascinated by the history of human-computer interactions. Just understanding the foundations of the technologies we're using today was fun to me. I don't know how awfully nerdy that sounds, but I really loved it. And I think as a designer, it was inspiring for me to learn these things. Hopefully some of you know the one on the right. It's the first XR headset, and the reason it was called the Sword of Damocles was the fact that it was hanged from the ceiling because it was so heavy. So this was one of my interests on the side. I was just reading about HCI and trying to understand how we can apply those principles that were discovered decades ago to our work today. And then the other interest of mine was critical art and public space art, and how artists were using technologies to do that kind of art today. These first two pieces inspired me to think that like AR could be a medium for location-based art practices. And this is exactly a year before Pokemon Go was released. That's when I thought about it, because obviously everybody was thinking and hyping about AR at the time. And then I researched and found that there were already artists who were working on this. And at that time, I decided I should be studying something at the intersection of art, critical art, and technology. And I decided it didn't necessarily have to be directly related to my career, because I decided that this was my passion project, doing a MA degree. So I moved to Finland to study new media design. And that idea has inspired me to write my master thesis about this project I did. And I basically researched how augmented reality could be a tool for public art. But at the same time, even though I just summarized this in a couple of sentences, it was a long process because I didn't stop working. I was still working as a product designer, as a digital product designer. First, I worked at a consultancy company here in Helsinki, which was pretty interesting because for the first time, so this project I wanted to give as an example from that role. This was a software as a service solution for microgrid developers. And we trialed this pilot project in India. For the first time, I was out of my context, trying things in a rural area, because when you work in tech industry, chances are that you're going to be working in cities, and the solutions you're creating are for cities. It was really interesting. I don't know if you've ever heard of this criticism of Silicon Valley today, the fact that we're designing for convenience. Our biggest power of innovation is actually wasted on making some of the things a bit more convenient for a very slim part of our population. So I was one of the ones who would immediately say, yeah, true, like how do they know from Silicon Valley? But this project made me notice that my own perspective is actually super narrow, and I really don't know what are the needs of our human family and how digital technologies could be applied to solving those problems. So I think I'm really happy that I joined a company and a team that has given me this chance to just like get out of my comfort zone and try something totally different for a change. And then when I was working there, I have met this amazing team, an industrial research lab, which was basically creating demo projects just to generate a very in-depth knowledge of technologies. For example, the subject of this particular project was how tablet form factor could be used as a power tool. And maybe I could play. I just wanted to show some of the interactions that I designed for this project. So the idea here was that different than a traditional kind of project, we basically tried so many different interactions and tried to understand what kind of gestures stick with us, what kind of interaction languages we habituate, and why, and when we don't, why don't we? So having that kind of a deeper knowledge about what do we do with our hands, with our tools, in this case, it's a pencil, with eyes, and our behaviors, psychology as a human being, and how we've found this relationship with our systems, with our computational systems, I finally had the chance to exercise this curiosity with this team. And I feel like that was my segue into XR and spatial computation. So obviously I did my master's thesis about augmented reality and mixed reality. And I would say I kind of understand what the landscape was and what was the promising disruptive powers in that field. But I would say without understanding the deeper behavioral patterns behind our relationship between us and computers, I would say maybe one link would be missing before I moved my career into XR. So after this project, finally, I felt like I could maybe look into VR and XR field a bit. But my focus was at that time was to remain as a self-employed. That's one of the things that swing a lot through my career. You might have noticed already, I have worked on very different projects in different industries. And I was sometimes working for companies and sometimes working as an independent designer. And even when I talk about this at job interviews, I'm always afraid that it might look like I didn't have a focus. But I think the reason that I did that was I really knew what my priorities were. I really wanted to work on interesting projects. That was super important to me. I wanted economic, like financial satisfaction, financial security. And I wanted to work with people who inspired me. So these three things were my priorities, and managing my trade-offs between these were how I made my career-related decisions. All the other things, I felt like stuff that I could maybe comprise a little, but these stuff, I wanted to just like keep these as my really important priorities that I couldn't really give up on. So that's why I think all the other things I have been just adjusting around, sometimes being a full-time employee, sometimes working independently, changing jobs, but just like sticking to these principles of working something that makes me really excited and challenged every day. I really like when I feel like I'm the dumbest person in the room. I think there's something really nice about it. But yeah, I think this project and the one before definitely gave me that kind of experience. And so finally I felt like I could move on to something maybe a bit bigger. And that's when I landed the job at VIII. So I think, as I briefly mentioned before this, those experiences, my master's thesis, these were the factors that probably took me here. But one other factor that I really want to mention here is the network, my contacts that I had. Well, network has a negative connotation for me as well. I think it's a bit of a tired word, but I don't know if there's any other synonym that we can use for that purpose. I didn't know that VIII was looking for a designer, for example, but a friend of mine who also knew the chief design officer at VIII recommended me to them. And it's just so important that you communicate what you're curious about and what you want to do to people who are around you, because you never know who's going to be that contact. And also, I think it's just so important to foster good relationships with people you know and you work with. Not because it's a really tricky suggestion. I'm not saying that you should just like fake being nice, but I think just fostering good relationships with people around you is going to, first of all, make everybody more productive and make everybody work better together. But also, people are going to really know what you want to do, and people are going to know that you're sincere about doing something a bit more than what you're doing at that moment. So that's how I met with VIII, and then I started working there. Again, for example, I gave up on my brief dream of remaining as an independent designer because Vario was super exciting for me. So I managed that trade-off there with that career-related decision-making point. Then everything was going pretty well. I was doing research about the future of XR, which was so exciting. I put a little, like 2 little visuals here, but I cannot really reveal so much about what I did at Vario because it was basically a research for what would be happen 2 or 3 years from now. Yeah, things were going great. If any one of you doesn't know about Vario, it's a producer of XR and VR headsets, industry grade XR and VR headsets. But then COVID happened, and then Vario laid off a bunch of us. Everything was going fine, and then it wasn't, and then I just didn't know what to do. And then the first thing I did was just to make the news public. I thought if I announced that I was laid off and I'm looking for new opportunities, I could just meet people who are maybe at the same position and who are maybe looking for designers for their teams. And the day I shared this, Gravity Sketch has contacted me. Again, it's so horrible that I'm promoting networking all the time, but it's just so important. I also myself didn't know that it's so important. I didn't know LinkedIn worked so well, but the day I shared it, so many people interacted with that post. And I think that post, in fact, the reason I'm giving this talk today right now, my boss at Vario, my colleagues and my schoolmates, everyone who I've ever worked with liked and shared and commented on that. And then immediately the CEO of Gravity Sketch has seen that, and then they contacted. So I started working at my new job. And it's really interesting because I was a user of Gravity Sketch, and I really liked using that tool. But like when you're going through a crisis, probably you don't think about, or maybe some people would, but I couldn't think about what jobs to apply or what opportunities to chase after. So just by making that news public, I was basically just like putting myself out there and opening the communication channels. So right now at Gravity Sketch, as I said, well, for the ones who doesn't know Gravity Sketch, I can maybe play these a little. It's a VR sketching and creation tool. I'm working as an interaction designer there. Of course, it was awful that I was laid off from my previous job, which I really liked and enjoyed. But again, you never know what comes out of crises. I think Gravity Sketch is a great fit for me because it's right in the intersection of so many of my interests, right? I mean, it's a creator tool. It's in the field of XR, and one of the biggest focus groups at Gravity Sketch is industrial designers, and I have a background in that. I know how creating in 3D works with traditional software and traditional hardware that we've been using, but that's why I think I immediately know that, oh, this is probably the best outcome of this whole crisis. And yeah, I think right now the next for me is to just focus on and help the team to make Gravity Sketch the best tool in the market. And on the other hand, I think that could be probably like throughout this whole presentation, I mentioned all my different interests that were not necessarily directly related to my job. I will just like keep on drawing inspiration from other areas, because I feel like that's what has fed me, and that's what has given me the passion and drive to constantly keep going. I'm not saying that everybody's story is different, and I think everybody draws power from different resources. But for me, this like constant source of inspiration from different areas was what worked. If I focused on creating user interfaces or mobile applications or services only and didn't get interested in, let's say, art and philosophy behind our computational tools, I don't think I would ever feel really satisfied with what I was doing. And then right now, during my day job, and this I never thought that it would actually happen, but I feel like it feels like playing. I could just do that even if I wasn't getting paid, and that's a very good feeling. So right now, for example, apart from doing what I do at Gravity Sketch, I try to experiment with little prototypes. I'm really curious about hand interactions. I'm trying to play around with that a little. And I'm hoping that the master's thesis that I created, I could maybe take that to a whole new level and maybe do a second iteration of that. Those are the things that I'm focusing and trying to keep doing at the same time as my day job at Gravity Sketch. But yeah, I think I tried to stop right at 20 minutes, and I'm hoping I did that. But yeah, my key takeaways would be, and it's so difficult to recommend anything, like giving any career advice, because first of all, I feel like I'm not that senior. And also just like knowing what worked for me would work for someone else is kind of impossible. But I think just find what is your priority, like what you can. Managing trade-offs is also a very important principle when you're designing products. You get to know what areas you can stretch a little and what is just so important, and you just basically cannot compromise on those. Just finding that is super important, and fostering good relationships, working with people who inspire you. I cannot stress this enough. I think working with people who inspire you is just so important. And also, yeah, just like working on things that interest you without thinking whether they could immediately have an impact on your career or not. I think that's something that has worked for me. Yeah, and hopefully you have questions now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gokcen. Yeah, I would like to invite everyone to maybe even turn on their videos and ask questions to Gokcen. Yeah, or maybe either like present yourself, say what you're doing, and we're really curious to make this a very interactive session.
I try to go to gallery view over here. Yeah.
Hey, hello.
So who wants to go first?
Hey, this is Dan Lu. Can I ask a question?
Of course, Dana. Hi.
Hi, hello. Sorry, I can't turn on the camera yet, but hello here. I just wanted to ask if you have any advice for traditional UX designers who's like been working on 2D. If I want to move my career over to XR, what's your advice on where to start with, what to start doing, or what kind of courses or degree you would be recommend looking into, etc.?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know much about degrees and courses, but probably I would just start learning Unity because to be able to immerse yourself into this like whole different way of interacting with computers, I think getting a sense of it, getting a feeling of it is probably the first thing that you should be doing. If you have the chance to try out just like, I don't know, creating a UI and then somehow viewing it spatially probably is going to give you a little kick, and then you're going to hopefully get inspired and turn that little prototype into a whole new idea. But you have to try your experiences and your user interfaces in a spatial environment. And to be able to do that, it doesn't actually require so much skills, I would say, just like learning the basics of Unity. And Unity has a lot of good resources on their website, just learning that. And if you have access to a VR headset, you're basically good to go, I'd say. Or if you don't, actually mobile VR and mobile AR is a pretty good segue into XR world, I would say, because I don't know if it was clear from my presentation, but my master's thesis was a mobile AR experience. And I still feel like XR is going to be pushed to the mainstream through mobile devices, not headsets yet, because that's what everybody has. And that's like, think about Pokemon Go. The reason that it was used by so many people was that it was a mobile application, right? So you can just like start trying out things with your mobile phone or tablet already.
Great, thank you very much.
And we have one more question here from Davi. When you made the move to start applying for XR positions, what kind of changes did you do to your portfolio?
Oh, I'm probably the worst person to reply any questions about portfolio because I don't have one. I think I didn't. That's very interesting. I wanted to work with people who has found everything I've done before relevant to what they're looking for. So I think I got this question also when I was applying for jobs where they would require like more of an interaction designer persona rather than a UI designer persona, because in design, like there's this super niche fractions of like UI and visual and interaction. And I think they're very nice and probably describe what one person can achieve on a very like depth manner. But I also feel like everything you do should be relevant to what you're gonna do next. I think if you have created digital tools, digital software for some kind of a computer, I don't see a reason for you to not to move into XR. So everything you've done before is still relevant, and how you would like to shape your portfolio is, in my opinion, totally up to you. But if you have not done anything regarding XR, just doing one or two passion projects and including that in your portfolio, that's like a super cliche answer probably, but it's valid. It's valid for anything. Let's say if you're a data analyst, software developer who would like to become a designer now, you would like to probably have something to show. And if you didn't have the chance to do that in a professional context, I think just like doing a passion project probably is a good idea to start with. I know that, for example, in one of my job interviews, I took this like one passion project into my portfolio, even though I know that they would probably be more interested in products that I ship to the market. And that was actually the one that they were more interested in because it reflects so much of my own understanding of how tools should work. So yeah, I think just include everything you've done before, but also one or two things that could maybe give an idea about what you want to do in XR field would be a good idea.
Thank you. So any further questions? Feel free to just introduce yourself and say hello. Who are some XR designers that you look up to? Good question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, well, obviously everybody who's famous, Judith Schwartz, for example, who was also teaching at XR Bootcamp, I think, and was it Dennis? Yeah, he's doing amazing stuff with hand interaction. I really like everyone who's famous on Twitter. I'm fangirling over everyone because it's amazing that people have the courage and the passion to share their work. I think sharing your work takes so much time because you have to somehow bring it to a level where you can make it public. you need to somehow polish it still, and it takes so much time. I know it. I tried it before and it wasn't for me. Everyone who's experimenting with hand interaction and people who are creating user interfaces for XR, and also artists who are working with VR tools. I'm following them all the time. They're amazing character artists and VR and XR painters who are basically pushing the boundaries of these tools. And as a designer, we just learn from them. I recently saw this one designer, one character artist. She has created this like really meticulous robots on Gravity Sketch, and that has given me a different idea of like what this tool can be and what kind of opportunities it can unlock for people. So definitely, like anyone in the field right now, and the field is not too big. I think that's one of the opportunities that we have at the moment. You can basically follow almost everyone who's actively creating in the field of XR.
Thank you. Do you need to have in-depth about C# programming for Unity XR projects?
I don't think so. Probably, I don't know if this is a controversial topic, but I've heard some people think that it's a good idea to learn some coding, but I don't think so, because there's MRTK. You can do that. It's a very good framework. And then there is this Playmaker in Unity Asset Store, which is like a visual programming tool. With those, you're good to go. But it really depends on what you want to build. If you want to build a finished product, probably you need to learn how to code in a proper way. But for prototyping, for just testing your ideas and for communicating your designs to people who are going to implement it for the finished product, then I think just like MRTK and Unity's own SDK and that Playmaker, I think it's just enough. Oculus also has its own SDK for hand interaction and stuff, which can be used without any coding knowledge.
That's also what we're seeing in our XR Bootcamp classes. We have a great advisory board. I don't know, you can check on our website, but they are always giving us a lot of advice on what kind of skills and what kind of tech stack to include in our master classes. And we have like different tracks basically for designers and for developers. And for designers on the coding side, of course, it's very low. Like you will get the basics. Like, of course, you have to know like to learn to read it, but you don't have to really like know how to do it yourself. And of course, Unity is the basis basically for everything. And yeah, and there's one more question by Rick Tuazon.
Before, sorry, go ahead. Did I
yeah, no worry.
One addition to that before we move on to the next one, since it's a very young emerging field, there are probably different roles that are gonna emerge. One thing I see is like people like myself who design experiences and interactions and prototype them and communicate them to the developers, but there are also people who are prototypers, which is also something that has existed in mobile computation field, but I think it's becoming more important in XR field. So if you would consider becoming a prototyper of experiences, I think that's a whole different story. And then obviously coding is probably a very good asset.
Okay, definitely. Are there any XR applications, games you recommend trying out for its interaction design?
Well, to get interaction design inspiration, it's a very tough question. I was really inspired by Half-Life. I think it's so amazing that they pulled off the pencil use so well. And I recently saw that maybe it was a school in Ukraine during this pandemic, the teacher was using that to teach her class. I think that's pretty mind-blowing, and it kind of confirmed to me that they actually have done a good job with that interaction. But apart from that, I play games mostly just to play games without thinking whether they inspire me or not. Recently, well, okay, I really love that game because it has an amazing sense of humor. Was it I Expect You to Die? I think it's on Steam and Oculus Store and everywhere. It's just this, I really like escape room games. And it sits perfectly with the context of VR, in my opinion, because you don't have to leave your seat, but you can do so much and your world is changing all the time. And it's a puzzle game in which you use your hands and controllers a lot. I will recommend that one. But games and experiences, I mean, what artists do with VR and XR definitely is inspirational in so many levels, because those are the precursors of what is going to end up in consumer tools later on. So for example, I don't know if the Oculus users here are using SideQuest, but there are just so many not so polished little experiences there, free games, because they're like on beta or alpha release yet. I have seen, for example, this one game where, I don't remember the name, I'm sorry, but there was an interface on your arm, because right now the tracking of your body, of your shoulder and arm is kind of new. It's still being tested. So I think that's why it's just like on a beta level, but probably that idea is going to be quite common in consumer tools and in more developed games. A couple months from now, things move really fast in the XR field right now, but just like seeing those things very early on gives you ideas and inspirations about what you can do with your own designs. So yeah, definitely deep dive into SideQuest, all the games you can afford on Oculus, and try to see what people are trying.
And on SideQuest, there's also the Hand Physics Lab
Yeah.
by Dennis Kunert, which is also amazing. Like, you should definitely, of course, it's also free. And yeah, it's really like giving you an impression, a great impression of the hand tracking and what's actually possible. Yeah, just there's one more question, but I wanted to introduce you to Ferhan as well. I mean, you already talked with Ferhan, who's also from XR Bootcamp, just came back from a meeting.
Hi,
And yeah, so next question. How do you feel about the differences between Unity and Unreal Engine to create XR experiences? Unreal is making a lot of progress in virtual production. Do you think that Unity could do the same work? I'm choosing right now which technology to invest time into first.
As a designer, I would say Unity. I'm not the expert, but I feel like, okay, I'm an expert in terms of usability. I can recommend Unity more, I would say. Unreal Engine is more advanced in terms of computer graphics. So for example, at Vario, some of our demos were made only on Unreal Engine, because the experience just shines in that, like all the shaders and the visual quality is much higher. But if you're not using Vario headset, and if you're not gonna create games that requires the visual capabilities of Unreal Engine, Unity is, in my opinion, easier to pick up and easier to continue with. And I think the community is stronger at Unity. Unreal has this like gamer community who are pretty advanced users. I think community in Unity is just like, it's a wider spectrum. There are beginners, midweight users and experts and all that. Online support is much easier. So yeah, I would recommend Unity, I think.
I mean, I agree everything that Gokcen mentioned. And in addition to that, if you are really a programmer, because Unreal requires C++, if you want to really build something from scratch, they have a very nice actually blueprint visual scripting tool for especially construction and for experiences that requires visual fidelity, like entertainment, gaming, and construction, real-time visualization of a house or any site. Then Unreal makes sense, because their texture and everything looks much better, as Gokcen mentioned. But Unity is, as mentioned, like it is the best place to start if you have not interacted with any engine before. And in terms of the plugin support and asset, if you are not creating your own asset, I think Unity has wider asset support that you can really use a lot of models and animated like figures or any other things that you may need. And of course, in terms of the deployment to different devices and cross-platform, I think Unity has more plugin support compared to Unreal. So it is really based on what kind of experience or use case that you are looking for. Yeah, maybe this is a question. Can you suggest any sites, books to study interaction design for XR? Gökçen, maybe you can give.
I can suggest a book which lays the foundations pretty well. Let me bring it up so that I don't tell the writers wrong. 3D User Interfaces, Theory and Practice by Doug Bowman, Ernst. Maybe I should just write.
We can also offer our principal class.
Yeah.
We have actually a principals class that we our hand tracking and interaction design masterclass trainers are giving. It is like a 3 hours, right, program, 3-4 hours program that you can watch, and the details is we are sharing on the link in a bit. It's actually showing you what kind of mindset and principles that you have to actually equip with, and how you should approach to a spatial computing mindset. So yeah, you can see the program details there.
A screenshot.
Yeah, we also had a few suggestions already for
On the chat, yeah.
Yeah, Infinite Retina is, yeah, it's good for augmented reality. Yeah, all these. I mean, when you say XR, of course, VR and AR interaction design is a little bit different. And I strongly suggest, of course, maybe our YouTube channel, the talks that we did with Microsoft HoloLens, head of interaction design, and Magic Leap. I think we can also share these YouTube links with you to give you an idea.
Apart from books, I can also recommend I don't know what source would be the best for that, but I can recommend you to familiarize yourself with the landscape. So what are the companies that are important in XR field right now? What are the possible technologies that are going to have an impact? For example, what is the potential impact of 5G for XR, or point cloud technology, or AR cloud? What is that? What does that mean? I think having all that knowledge about the landscape and technological field probably is going to make every book or article you read a bit more understandable.
I totally agree. I mean, even understanding what Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Samsung, Sony is trying to achieve is also actually, this can also give you a lot of idea how the maybe next 5 years of VR AR will look like.
Yeah, exactly. For example, the LiDAR camera of the new iPad Pro, why is that such a big thing? Yeah.
And understanding what kind of like strategical moves each company is doing, right? For example, you mentioned about our AR program, right? AR Kit, AR Core. So when you look at that, there's a reason behind of these SDKs being released for the last couple of years, because both Google and Apple is actually preparing the developer and content creator community for their upcoming headset that we are expecting in 1 or 2 years, right? So because all the things that you are building on ARKit today, if you can learn from our masterclass or from outside, it will be great, because the more you learn and you start creating this content, whenever the headsets comes, your application already will work on mobile, but it will also work on the headset, right? And you will have a large audience. Like think of like how AirPods pick up in a very short period of time. So we believe that the headsets will also have the similar effect. And Google also just acquired a company called North Focals, and they are now ready for world war of VR AR. So we will expect a huge competition between these companies, especially these two companies, on AR side. But on the VR side, Facebook is already dominating. HTC is helping. Vario is actually in a very unique position that they have the most like high resolution headset. So every headset company or these big companies are positioning themselves for different use cases. So understanding this landscape and major players will help you a lot while selecting your career path. So
and there's some more.
yeah,
shared from
yeah.
Rajat.
Rajat shared a few nice. AR/VR journey is perfect. I can definitely recommend that. There is also one more UX design. I'm always using this not only for VR AR but for generally. I can also share this with you. Yes, this one. If you don't know this medium, let me share this.
In the meantime, any further questions?
You are writing for that publication. Perfect, Raja. That's great. Yeah, VR journey is very nice. So there's one more medium publication. It is general, not only for VR AR, but they have also very nice VR AR articles that you can search for. This medium publication. So anyone who would like to maybe even raise hand and then directly talk with Gokcen and us, maybe ask questions about your own career path, and you may want to have advice in this remaining minutes. We are happy to support.
Take the opportunity to network, as Gokcen mentioned.
Yes, network and ask questions. Let us navigate your career path. Just you can raise your hand or you can just write to chat window.
Maybe I can say one or two things about networking.
Sure.
I think most of the time it probably feels like either obtrusive or bothering people to ask questions online, but people are more open than you would think. And it was so difficult for me to accept and understand this also, but a couple of times I tried it. When I was working on my thesis, I didn't get any software development help from anyone. So I basically needed to ask questions online a lot. And people are really nice and really happy when you're interested in their work. So just, I think making use of Twitter is also probably a good idea. There's a very good community there, and there are a bunch of lists that you can follow. For example, I know that there is this list of women in XR and Europe, XR Europe hashtag list, I think. So just like make use of Twitter and LinkedIn and try to reach out to people, of course, respecting their time and having realistic expectations, but don't hesitate to, I don't know, get their opinions or ask for feedback.
There's also the hashtag XR jobs, which you can check, and
Yeah.
it's also very helpful for just asking questions and it may be answered.
Yeah, they are doing some initiatives.
By the way, Rajat, you raised your hand. Did you want to say something or? No, I think it's just there. Okay, great. Is anyone interested in one of our XR Bootcamp programs? Yeah,
we are starting in 12 days. So if anyone interested, please let us know, because we may need to give you some preliminary courses and resources that you need to be prepared before coming to the masterclass.
The new one is going to be about hand interaction again, right?
Hand interaction is in October, but our upcoming one is now in AR remote support. So we are teaching ARKit and AR Core for Google and Apple devices. And in addition to that, we will have VR training support program, which is like VR training simulation program, which is actually on one side, you are designing the VR training experience. On the other side, you are creating and developing the VR training in 4 weeks. And we are matching you with actually a high-level industry expert from different companies. So KLM, Volkswagen Group, DB, all these companies are actually like supporting this program. So if you are interested, you can reach to us anytime.
Yeah, I mean, maybe what I can recommend to you, Christine, it's really this augmented reality support program, because it's also taught by a UI UX designer from Telecom, actually. And she's teaching the first 2 weeks of the program, and then the last 3 weeks are actually taught by a developer. And yeah, and for the scholarship application, you just need to cross this. There's in the application form, there's a motivation question, like why do you think you deserve a scholarship? So you just can freely fill in, and yeah, and we have 3 scholarships available, so you can just apply for that. So basically, for example, for the ARS program, augmented reality remote support program, it's basically from $2,000 to $599 US. So that's yeah, quite a huge scholarship we were able to allow there. And yeah, and you can just apply on the general application form link. So I can also post that here. 1 second. And yeah, and all our classes, they're really project-based. So in the end, you really have a portfolio project. You also get to network a lot with our teachers, with our advisory board. You get to pitch at industry events, actually, to really a large crowd of industry representatives. So that's definitely a high value, especially if you're looking for a job or to yeah, we don't have a criteria. We don't have for the scholarship. Just please make sure you write everything in the basically in the question. In the question where it says, why do you think you deserve a scholarship? And then we will decide, and yeah, and based on the applications we have, we will decide who gets the scholarship and who is most in need of the scholarship and who is most qualified for the course, of course.
I mean, being committed is very important for us. So if I were you, I would share my previous work, but also why you will be committed for the next 1 month, 1.5 months. So
sorry, that was the wrong link.
So yeah, we are sharing the right link now. Just 1 second. Yeah, yes. And if you have any last questions, before we wrap up. So
it's the application link.
Yeah, the last link is the masterclass application. Thank you as well, Christina. Thank you. Okay, Matt, don't burn yourself and your oven. So we have to wrap up anyways. So thank you everyone for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach to us.
Yeah, we're happy to connect on LinkedIn and ask us questions. I'm sure Gokcen is available as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, and thank you so much to Gokcen for being part of this Career Navigator series. And please let us know if you have any like suggestions in terms of who you would like to ask career questions, like which kind of personality. Please let us know as well, so we can invite that person. And yeah, on Thursday, we also have a new webinar, which is about this augmented reality support application a masterclass. So please feel free to join that as well. You will find it on Eventbrite. And otherwise, I wish everyone a good evening or good day, wherever you are right now. And see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Gokcen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for
Bye.
inviting me.